All right, I've done a little bit more work down here. It isn't much because it's just been putting out the turnouts and doing a kind of a close look on them. These are all repurposed from various layouts. One of them I helped tear out, the other bought them for pretty cheap. But anyway, I digress with that. I had two brands that were given or that I'd bought, and it was a mix of Atlas and microengineering. And at first, I'd thought of just using all the microengineering. The ones that I had, most of them had just the spring in it that you could just throw with your finger. And I really liked that idea, especially for down here, just being able to reach in and flip the turnout. However, when I got looking at them, there were some issues. A lot of it was that the point rails had come off and there'd have to be resoldering, or I don't know if this one will be able to see. You can see it better there. Some of them had had previous work done and the point had already snapped with the solder. And while I do like the microengineering switches, I just feel like repurposing them down here would not be a good idea, especially if something were to happen and then I'd have to tear it out. And just the space is really tight, and I don't really want to be dealing with that. So luckily I had enough Atlas switches that had been pulled off that the most work that I'll have to do is just cutting the wires down a little more. And, some of them I may just end up trimming up and cutting off before the wires, just because I can. And it doesn't really matter if it's part of the switch or the track below it. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter. I do need to go through and just double check all of them. I had one laid out and was looking at it and didn't realize that it was missing the rail here. And while, yes, it is easy that I could just pop in the rail and super glue it down and be fine, I didn't want there to be a factor that of, me doing something, breaking again, and then me having to tear it out and redo it all. So that's why, long story short, that's why I'm going with the Atlas switches that I have. They are, I believe, number 5s. They're the smaller ones, but that's not a big deal because this is an industrial area and speeds will be restricted anyway. So shouldn't be any issues. And yeah, so that is that for those. The other thing that been toying with is maybe having this be, or I said earlier, throwing this switch here. I may throw, because I've got an extra one, I may put another switch coming off of the right there so that there's 3 tracks coming over to where the mill would be. But I don't know. It's getting real close to spaghetti bowl, and I don't know if I really want that. So that's something that I'll be thinking about. The other thing is, now that I'm using the Atlas switches, is at first I figured that I wouldn't power the frogs, but been kind of thinking back and forth on that because realistically, it should be at least one 6-axle locomotive that's doing the switching down here, if not 2. And it should be fine passing the frog. But even though I say that, I may even have it that this is kind of the yard switcher area that the 6 axles bring everything down, and then you swap over to the smaller locomotive. I don't know. I just thought of that, so I'll toy with that idea. If I do that, for sure I'll have to power the frogs. And, even thinking of it where I want reliability, powering the frogs is going to be the best way to go. So we'll see on that. Which brings to the other thing of actually throwing the turnout. Excuse me. I don't know if I'm going to use toggle switches. I received a bunch of these with these turnouts, and while they work, and I've ran on plenty of layouts that do this for switching their turnouts, I also like the idea of the caboose ground throws. But if I do that, I'll have to get the electrified ones, and some of the area is tight, so I don't know if those will fit. But if I've got plenty of time to decide on that, because if I do the caboose ground throws, I'll wait for the couple of train shows that are coming up that I'm going to, and I'll look and see about buying them there. Or I may just, stick with this and, just use the toggle switch, because I know these will be cheap and probably a lot cheaper than the caboose ground throws. But how much do I want to really save where the ground throws are pretty reliable as well? So something that I'm going to be thinking about, and, not much of an update, but at least things are coming together, and, just going to keep working on it in between the projects. I did find out that I have enough joiners. I may be short just a couple, which if that's the case, then I'll just borrow from the group or the few that I have that I normally take with me to train shows, just in case, and then just resupply those, later on. So I think the next steps that I'm going to do is go through all of the switches, make sure, or take off all of the joiners, and the extra on some of them, we just cut the track behind it so that we could get the switch out without having to tear anything up, because the previous owner, I don't think he on any of the switches used glue to secure them down, which was really made things really nice and easy to tear them up. So anyway, that's the next step is to do that. Make sure that there's nothing missing, like this rail there, and we'll just keep working on this and be thinking on what I want to do, and at least I know that I can kind of go back and forth, and we'll decide, because I can always put the switches in, or the toggle switches in after, and just feed the wire up, or the bar up to connect. So that's where we're at, and we'll just keep working on this and be back with an update when I get some more done.